It was a bright afternoon at the naval base. The sun hit the marble wall where hundreds of names shimmered, men who gave everything for their country. An old man in a wheelchair stopped there, reading each name softly, like he was talking to brothers long gone. A Marine commander walked by, noticed him, and frowned. "Civilians aren't allowed here, sir." The old man didn't look up. "I served. A long time ago." The commander, "Yeah? Then tell me your call sign." The man turned his head slowly, eyes sharp as glass. "Alpha 1. Silence." The commander froze, sweat rolling down his face. Because that name wasn't just a call sign, it was a legend from Vietnam. A name whispered by every soldier who'd ever heard the stories of the unit that never failed a mission. And now, one of them was sitting right in front of him. If you believe stories of real heroes should never fade, make sure to subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. The sun was sharp that afternoon, reflecting off the white marble wall that stretched across the naval courtyard. Each name carved into it caught the light like a memory refusing to die. A soft breeze moved across the base, carrying faint sounds of drills, boots, and distant orders. But here, by the memorial, it was quiet. An old man in a wheelchair rolled to a stop before the wall. His hands trembled as he adjusted the small American flag tucked by his armrest. His uniform cap was faded, the bronze pin dull with years, but his eyes, still that deep soldier's gray, tracked the names one by one. He whispered them, not loud, not for anyone else to hear, just for the men who once stood beside him. A young Marine jogging past slowed down, puzzled by the sight. A few others in uniform exchanged looks. Civilians weren't usually here. The courtyard was restricted to active personnel and invited guests. And this man didn't look invited. His wheelchair had scratches, his jacket was worn, and a small tag hung from the back that read, "Veterans Hospital, San Diego." But there was something in the way he looked at that wall, like he wasn't reading names at all. He was remembering voices. The Marine commander spotted him next. Tall, clean-cut, with the kind of posture that turned heads. Commander Reeves had spent 10 years in service and never tolerated rule-breaking on his watch. He adjusted his sunglasses and walked over, boots crisp against the stone. "Sir," Reeves said firmly, "this area's for authorized personnel only." The old man didn't turn right away. His fingers traced a name slowly, reverently, like it belonged to someone he once carried through the mud. Then, with a quiet voice that carried more weight than volume, he said, "I served. A long time ago." Reeves gave a short laugh. "Yeah? I hear that one a lot. You'll have to do better than that." Still no reaction. Just the old man looking at another name, whispering it under his breath. Reeves stepped closer, irritation flickering. "Come on, sir, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but this place is for real servicemen, not—" That's when the old man turned. His eyes weren't soft anymore. They were steady, cold, like a calm before artillery. "Not what?" he asked. The commander hesitated. "Not civilians." The old man's lips curved into a tired, almost knowing smile. "You think I'm a tourist, son?" Reeves shrugged. "If you served, I'll apologize, but I'll need a name and call sign to verify. That's protocol." The wheelchair creaked slightly as the old man leaned forward. His voice dropped so low it felt like the air itself stopped moving. "Alpha 1. For a second, Reeves didn't react. He just blinked, the words not quite connecting. Then his expression changed. It wasn't confusion, it was realization. The kind that makes your heart skip a beat. Alpha 1. The name every Marine recruit had heard at least once in training. The leader of a recon unit that vanished in Vietnam but saved 3 platoons before disappearing behind enemy lines. Half myth, half history. Reeves felt the temperature around him drop. Sweat gathered at his temples despite the heat. He looked at the old man again, the wheelchair, the scars along his hands, the distant gaze of someone who'd seen jungles burn. "Alpha 1?" Reeves repeated, his voice cracking slightly. The man nodded once. The commander straightened, instinct overriding disbelief. He saluted, stiff, immediate, and perfect. It wasn't out of habit, it was out of fear. Every Marine on that base knew what Alpha 1 meant. It wasn't a name, it was a legacy. A ghost that haunted their military textbooks, a unit leader whose missions were still classified after 50 years. The young Marines nearby stopped talking. One whispered, "Did he just say Alpha 1? Another muttered, "No way, that's just a legend." Reeves's throat went dry. He stepped back, his voice trembling as he reached for his radio. "Command, this is Reeves. I think Alpha 1 is on base." Static hissed for a moment, then a stunned voice came back. "Say again, Commander?" Reeves swallowed. "Alpha 1, Vietnam Recon Division. He's here, right in front of me." There was no response for several seconds. Then, quietly, "Stand by." The old man turned back toward the wall, unconcerned by the sudden attention. He looked almost peaceful. "They're all still here," he murmured, his hand hovering over the engraved names. "Every one of them." Reeves lowered his radio. "Sir," he said, his tone softer now. I read about your unit. Operation Silent River, right?" The old man didn't look at him. You read about ghosts, Commander, not men." Behind them, more Marines were gathering, drawn by the strange tension in the air. A few of them whispered, "What's going on?" and "Who's that?" Reeves turned and barked, "At ease." His voice carried across the courtyard, but it didn't sound like authority anymore. It sounded like awe. For a long moment, nothing moved. The sun hit the marble wall again, bright and blinding. The old man lifted his chin slightly, eyes fixed on the last name at the bottom, one he hadn't spoken aloud yet. That's when the radio crackled again. "Commander Reeves, this is General Lawson. You said Alpha 1 is on base?" Reeves glanced down at the old man, then answered, "Yes, sir. He's alive." The line went silent. Then a single order came through. "Don't let him leave." Reeves lowered the radio, heart hammering. The general himself, someone who never called directly, was coming down. He looked at the old man, unsure whether to speak. "Sir, the general's on his way. He wants to meet you." The veteran smiled faintly. "He won't recognize me." Reeves frowned. "Why's that?" The old man's eyes softened as he gazed at the names again. Because the man he knew never made it home. The courtyard went silent again. The sound of boots from across the base echoed faintly, getting closer. The wind picked up, tugging gently at the flag tied to the wheelchair. Reeves looked down, realizing for the first time that the tag on the old man's chair, the one from the VA hospital, was marked Deceased, 1971. He blinked, unsure if it was a mistake or something else entirely. The old man's voice broke the silence. "You should always check the names before assuming who belongs here, Commander." Reeves stared, speechless. "Because some of us," the veteran said quietly, "never really left." The sound of a helicopter roared overhead, approaching fast. Dust lifted from the ground. Reeves took one step back, his salute still locked. He didn't know what scared him more, the realization that Alpha 1 was alive, or the thought that maybe he never truly died. If you think we should never judge a book by its cover, comment "Never Judge" below. And stay till the end, because what happens when the general arrives will change everything. The helicopter's blades cut through the hot afternoon air, sending ripples across the marble courtyard. Marines rushed to form a perimeter, unsure why a simple veteran visit had turned into a full-scale lockdown. Commander Reeves stood near the old man's wheelchair, chest tight, eyes never leaving the figure who'd just turned the base's routine day into something out of a classified report. The old veteran stayed still, eyes on the wall, whispering another name under his breath. "You'd laugh if you saw all this, Daniels," he murmured. "We used to hide from helicopters, not summon them." Reeves lowered his voice. "Sir, the general's on his way. He requested that you stay right here." The man didn't answer. Instead, he wheeled slightly forward until the sunlight struck his metals. Faint, scratched, but unmistakably real. Each one caught the light like an old truth that refused to stay buried. The chopper touched down. Dust swirled. From inside stepped General Lawson, a tall, silver-haired man with eyes that could freeze or melt a room depending on the hour. He'd commanded men in Iraq and Afghanistan, but in that moment, he looked like someone walking toward a ghost. He approached slowly, his voice uncertain. "Who made the call?" Reeves saluted. "Commander Reeves, sir. I found him by the memorial. He said his call sign was Alpha 1. Lawson's jaw tensed. "That's not a name anyone should be using lightly." "He didn't say it lightly, sir." Reeves stepped aside. "He said it like it belonged to him." The general turned his gaze toward the old man. For a few seconds he said nothing. The two men just stared at each other. The general in his decorated uniform, the veteran in his wheelchair, both carrying decades of unspoken weight. Then the old man smiled faintly. "You've aged well, Jimmy." The general froze. No one called him Jimmy. Not anymore. Not since Vietnam. Reeves's eyes widened. "Sir, you know him?" Lawson stepped closer, his face pale. "There were only 4 people alive who knew that name," he said quietly. 3 of them died in '68. The veteran nodded once. "And one of them went missing behind enemy lines." Silence spread across the courtyard. The Marines nearby looked at each other, unsure if they were witnessing a miracle or a haunting. "Impossible," Lawson whispered. "We found your dog tags. We buried you." The old man looked down. "You buried what was left of the uniform. Not me." Reeves's heart thudded. He felt like he was standing inside a story that wasn't supposed to exist. Lawson exhaled slowly, his composure slipping. You were the reason we made it out of that jungle. We thought you didn't." The veteran's eyes flicked to the wall. "They didn't. I did. That's the part I never forgave myself for." A single line of sweat rolled down Reeves's neck. Everything about the man, his voice, his presence, commanded more respect than any badge or rank could. One of the younger Marines whispered, "Who is he?" Reeves didn't answer. He was still trying to process it himself. Lawson turned to him. "Clear the area, now! Everyone but medical stays 30 feet back." The courtyard emptied fast. Only Reeves, the general, and the old man remained. The veteran shifted slightly, the creak of the wheelchair echoing under the flag's slow flap. "You always did have that same tone, Jimmy," he said softly. "Makes everyone stand taller." Lawson gave a strained smile. "And you always had that look, like you knew things the rest of us couldn't handle." "I knew the cost," the old man said. "You were all too young to understand it then." The general crouched beside the wheelchair, his voice low. "How are you still alive?" "Luck," the veteran said. "And a promise." "A promise?" He nodded toward the wall. "They saved my life. I swore I'd carry their names home. Took me 50 years to make it back." Reeves' throat tightened. "You came here just to see the wall?" The veteran looked at him, really looked at him this time. "No, son. I came to say goodbye." For a moment, no one spoke. The breeze moved again, rattling the small flag beside the wheelchair. Then the general stood, taking a slow breath. "We need to get you inside. The Pentagon's going to want to hear about this." The veteran shook his head. They had their chance to hear me. I'm done with debriefings. Lawson frowned. You don't understand what this means. Half the country still has open files about Alpha Unit's disappearance. I understand exactly what it means, the old man interrupted. His voice turned firm, commanding. It means they can finally stop looking. I'm the last one. The general opened his mouth to argue, but the look in the man's eyes stopped him cold. Behind them, Reeves' radio crackled again. Commander, status? Reeves hesitated. Changing by. The old man smiled faintly. Still waiting for orders, Commander? Reeves blinked. Force of habit, sir. Then here's one, the veteran said. Keep standing for those names. Don't let anyone forget them. Reeves nodded slowly. Lawson's gaze softened. Where have you been all these years? Everywhere, the veteran said simply. Hospitals, fields, small towns, places where people still wave at the flag. I thought I'd blend in. Turns out ghosts don't blend well. The general's voice cracked a little. You should have come home sooner. The man looked at the wall again. Home isn't a place, Jimmy. It's a name carved in stone. And sometimes it's a chair that still rolls. The sound of that sentence lingered longer than any explosion. Reeves swallowed hard, fighting the emotion pressing at his chest. He wanted to say something, thank you maybe, but the words caught in his throat. The general stepped back, suddenly looking small next to the man who used to lead him through the fire. Then out of nowhere the veteran's breathing hitched. His hand clenched the armrest. Reeves rushed forward. Sir, are you okay? The veteran nodded weakly. Just time catching up. Lawson signaled the medic team waiting at the edge. Get over here! The medic sprinted forward with a small kit, kneeling beside the chair. Vitals dropping, he said. We need to move him. The veteran's hand reached out, gripping the general's sleeve. No hospitals, he whispered. I'm right where I should be. Lawson shook his head, voice breaking. Don't say that. Not yet. The old man smiled faintly, eyes still locked on the wall. You remember the radio, Jimmy? When the extraction came too late? The general nodded slowly. I said, Alpha 1 signing off. His voice trailed off, as if the memory itself carried him somewhere far beyond the courtyard. Lawson's jaw trembled. Don't you dare do that again. The veteran looked up, and for a brief second there was that same fire in his eyes, the look of a man who once commanded fear and loyalty in equal measure. I never stopped serving, he whispered. The medic looked up, uncertain. Sir, he's stabilizing, but we need to move him to shade. Reeves and Lawson nodded, helping push the chair under a nearby canopy. The old man tilted his head toward the flagpole, watching it sway. You see that? He murmured. Still standing. Lawson nodded. Always. The veteran smiled again, then closed his eyes. For a long time, no one spoke. Reeves finally said, Sir, what do we do now? Lawson looked at the wall, then at the man before him. We do what Marines always do, he said quietly. We stand watch. And they did. In silence. 3 men, 1 legend, 1 commander, 1 witness, standing together beneath the afternoon sun that refused to fade. If you believe some heroes never die, they just fade into silence. Comment, never forget below, because what happens when Alpha 1's file reopens will reveal the secret even the general never knew. The command center was dim, its walls humming with the sound of servers and distant communications. A red light blinked above the door marked, Classified Access Only. Inside, General Lawson sat across from the old veteran, who looked smaller now under the harsh white light, but no less composed. Commander Reeves stood by the wall, hands folded behind his back, still trying to believe that he was breathing the same air as Alpha 1 himself. A medic had offered to keep the veteran under observation, but the man had refused. He wanted to talk, just once, before the sun set. Lawson had ordered the room cleared of everyone else. "Before we start," Lawson said quietly, "do you want to call anyone? Family? Old friends?" The veteran shook his head. "They've all gone ahead. I'm just catching up." The general nodded, then leaned forward. "You disappeared in 1968, during Operation Silent River. Official reports said your unit was ambushed by enemy forces outside Da Nang. 27 dead. You were presumed KIA, but now you're sitting here. I need to know how." The veteran took a slow breath, his eyes distant. "You sure you want the truth, Jimmy? It's not pretty." "After all these years," Lawson said, "we deserve it." The veteran looked down at his hands. "All right then." He started quietly. "It was the jungle that swallowed us first. Thick, wet air. Every step felt like dragging through ghosts. We had orders to pull out a POW extraction. 2 pilots taken behind enemy lines. But intel was wrong. It wasn't 2, it was 10. Whole squadron." Reeves shifted slightly, the words drawing him in. "The river we crossed that night," the old man continued, "wasn't on any map. Locals called it the Silent River. We thought it meant no sound carried. Turns out, it meant no one came back." He paused. The hum of the servers filled the silence. "We got ambushed halfway through, 50 of them, maybe more. I told my men to hold fire until I gave the word. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and 3 hours from any extraction zone. So, we did what we were trained to do: disappear." Lawson leaned forward. "Disappear?" "Blend with the jungle, move without a trace, kill without a sound." Reeves could almost see it, the thick mist, the shadows moving like ghosts through the trees. The veteran's voice grew quieter. "We lost Daniels first, then Ruiz, then Carter." He swallowed hard. "When we reached the clearing, there were only 7 of us left. I sent the others back with the pilots, stayed behind to cover them." He looked up then, eyes sharp again. "They made it home, Jimmy. I made sure of that. But I never left that jungle. Not really." Lawson nodded slowly, understanding. "You were captured." The old man gave a humorless laugh. "Captured, tortured, left for dead, pick your word. I was a ghost long before they buried me." Reeves' chest tightened. "Sir, how did you escape?" The veteran's gaze drifted somewhere far away. "One night they got careless. I found a gap in the watch, crawled out with a busted leg and a piece of metal for a weapon. Took me 2 weeks to reach friendly ground. By then the war had moved on. My unit was gone. My name too." Lawson frowned. "You could have come back." "I tried," the old man said softly. "But the VA said my file was closed. Deceased in action. They buried the uniform. I figured maybe that was for the best." The general rubbed his temple. "You mean to tell me you lived in silence for 50 years? "I lived in peace," the veteran corrected. "Until today." Reeves finally spoke. "Why today, sir? Why come back now?" The veteran looked at him, eyes tired but clear. "Because peace doesn't mean forgetting. I promised my men I'd read their names one last time, under the same flag they died for." Lawson exhaled heavily. "They'll write books about this when word gets out." The veteran smiled faintly. "Don't let them. Heroes don't need headlines. They need to be remembered quietly." The general looked at Reeves. "Commander, record this conversation. It's history." Reeves hesitated. "Sir, with all due respect, maybe it shouldn't be." Lawson raised a brow. Explain. Reeves' voice was steady. Some stories aren't meant for the record. They're meant for the soul. For a long moment, no one said a word. The hum of the air system sounded almost like wind through jungle trees. Then the veteran broke the silence. He's right. He looked at Lawson. Erase the tape when I'm done. The general didn't argue. He simply nodded. The old man adjusted his posture slightly, wincing as he did. You want the final piece, Jimmy? The reason Alpha One never came home? Lawson nodded slowly. The veteran's voice dropped low. Because the last radio call wasn't from me. It was from Daniels. Daniels? He nodded. He stayed behind with me after the extraction. When they found us, he took my dog tags, told me to run. Said if one of us had to stay, it'd be him. When the airstrike hit, I thought he was gone. Turns out, he was the one you buried. My best friend died pretending to be me. Reeves's stomach turned. He gave his life so you could live. The veteran's eyes glistened. He gave me a debt I've been paying ever since. Lawson rubbed his forehead, shaken. All this time, we thought— You thought Alpha One was dead, the veteran said softly. He wasn't. He was living with another man's ghost. The room fell silent again. Outside, a lone trumpet from the parade field carried faintly through the air. After a while, Lawson stood. We'll keep this sealed, old friend. But I'm going to make sure your men's names shine brighter on that wall. The veteran nodded slowly. Do that. But not for me. For them. Reeves stepped forward. Sir, what do you want us to tell the public? The veteran looked at him kindly. Tell them the truth. That heroes don't need witnesses. They just need someone to remember. Lawson reached across the table, hand trembling slightly, and shook the old man's. Welcome home, Alpha One. The veteran's grip was surprisingly strong. I never left, Jimmy. I was just waiting for someone to see me again. As they rose, the fluorescent light flickered, casting brief shadows over the walls filled with mission maps and photos. The old man's eyes lingered on one, a group shot from 1967. 7 soldiers, smiling in the mud. His hand lifted slowly toward the image, fingers shaking. That's the real Alpha unit, he whispered. The rest of us are just echoes. Lawson watched him, knowing that the old soldier's story would haunt the base long after he was gone. When they wheeled him out into the evening light, the sun was sinking, painting the base in amber and gold. Marines along the path stopped and saluted. No one told them to, no one had to. The veteran saluted back weakly, his hand trembling but precise. At ease, boys, he said softly. The fight's over. As the wheelchair rolled past the gate, Reeves felt something shift inside him. The weight of every salute, every name on that wall, suddenly heavier. He looked at the general. Sir, do we tell the Pentagon? Lawson shook his head. Not yet. Let him go home first. And so they watched, silent, as the old man disappeared down the sunlit path, flag fluttering beside him, the word Alpha One echoing in their minds like a prayer whispered between wars. If you believe some debts can only be paid in silence, comment "Never forget" below. Because what happens next will reveal the final message Alpha One left behind before leaving the base forever. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the naval base, sharp and clean after a long night of silence. The courtyard was empty now, just the flag swaying gently above the memorial wall. But something about the air felt different. Still, heavy, yet calm. Commander Reeves arrived early, uniform crisp, sleep non-existent. He'd spent most of the night replaying Alpha One's voice in his head, that slow, even tone that carried more command than shouting ever could. The security guard on duty waved him over. "Sir, you might want to see this." Reeves followed his gaze. The wheelchair sat by the wall, empty. For a moment, his breath caught. He walked closer, boots tapping against the marble tiles. The chair faced the sunlight exactly where Alpha One had sat the day before. A folded letter rested on the seat. Next to it, a medal, a silver star, edges the silver star, edges dulled by time. He reached down and picked up the letter. The handwriting was neat, slow, steady, every stroke deliberate. He unfolded it carefully. "To the men still standing, if you're reading this, I've gone to where my brothers already wait. Don't mourn me. I got 50 more years than any of them ever did. That's a blessing, not a loss. You asked why I came back. The truth is simple. I didn't want to be remembered as a ghost. I wanted someone to know we were real, flesh, blood, and mistakes. Heroes are just men who ran toward fire when others ran away. Don't worship that. Learn from it. The wall doesn't need flowers. It needs eyes that remember. So keep looking, keep saluting, and when you walk past a name you don't recognize, whisper it. That's how we stay alive. Alpha One. Reeves stood there for a long time, reading it again and again, the words sinking in like a slow tide. His chest felt tight. He looked at the medal again and thought about the weight it carried. Not the medal itself, but what it cost to earn. Behind him the base began to wake. Boots on pavement. Orders shouted in the distance. Engines starting. Life going on, just as it always did. But here by the wall time had stopped. He turned when he heard footsteps. General Lawson approached, hat tucked under his arm. His face looked older, lined by something heavier than age. "Morning, Commander," he said softly. "He's gone, isn't he?" Reeves nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." "Left this." He handed over the letter. Lawson took it, reading in silence. Halfway through, his eyes glassed. He blinked hard and folded the paper carefully, as if afraid it might break. "He left without a word," Reeves said. "Just vanished." The general nodded. "That's how he lived, Commander. Quietly, no headlines, no noise. Just duty." Reeves looked at the wall again. He said, "Heroes don't need worship, sir. Just remembrance." Lawson exhaled slowly. "Then let's give him that." The general turned and walked toward the base's operations center. Reeves stayed behind, still staring at the empty wheelchair. Something inside him wouldn't let him leave yet. He noticed something etched faintly on the armrest, scratched into the paint with a knife or maybe a bullet casing. Alpha 01. Last watch. He touched it gently, his fingers tracing each letter. Behind him a shadow fell across the courtyard. A young recruit, maybe 19, had stopped to watch. "Sir," the recruit asked, "who sat there?" Reeves smiled faintly. "A man who never stopped standing." The boy looked confused but didn't ask again. Reeves turned back toward the wall, feeling the warmth of the sunlight against the marble. He whispered, "Alpha 1, sir. Mission complete." A breeze stirred then, just enough to make the flag ripple once, sharp and proud. Reeves stood at attention and saluted, alone before the wall of names. For a second, he thought he heard something. Not a sound exactly, but a memory. The faint rustle of radio static, and a voice saying, "Alpha 1, signing off." That night, General Lawson authorized a single change to the memorial wall. Beneath the list of names from Operation Silent River, a new inscription appeared. Alpha 1. Unknown, but never forgotten. No ceremony, no speeches. Just two men who stood under the moonlight, watching the engraver finish the letters. When he was done, Reeves stepped forward, resting the silver star beneath the new line. "He'd hate this," he muttered with a half-smile. Lawson nodded. "Probably. Then why do it? The general's voice was quiet. Because sometimes legends deserve a place among the fallen, even if they walked among us yesterday. They stood there in silence. The stars were bright overhead, the kind of sky Alpha 1 probably used to navigate by long ago. Reeves found himself remembering that first moment, the heat of the afternoon, the laughter before the silence, the single word that changed everything. Alpha 1. It struck him how easily respect can vanish, how easily it can return. All it took was a moment, a truth, a name whispered by someone who'd earned the right to speak it. Lawson broke the silence first. "He taught me something yesterday." Reeves looked over. "What's that, sir?" "That courage doesn't always roar," Lawson said. "Sometimes it wheels up quietly to a wall, says a few names and leaves before sunrise." Reeves nodded slowly. "Guess that's why he was Alpha 1. Weeks later, the story spread quietly through the base. Not an official report, not a press release, just word of mouth. A Marine would tell it to another over coffee. A recruit would whisper it before lights out. They said the courtyard felt different now, like something unseen was keeping watch. And every so often, in the late afternoon, someone would swear they saw the flag lift on its own. Not from wind, but from a salute returned. Reeves never corrected them. He only told them what mattered. "That's Alpha 1. He's still on duty." If this story touched something in you, if you believe real heroes never die, they just keep watch in silence, then please, subscribe, because stories like this one deserve to live on. They deserve to be remembered. And every subscription helps one more name, one more forgotten hero, stay alive in the hearts of those who still care. Subscribe, share, and keep the salute alive. For Alpha 1.